whenever we'll discuss any topic, whenever I'll take up any topic in the class in the next, let's say, 10 months, that is when 1st of August will come. Whenever I will discuss any topic, there are 2-3 words which we'll discuss in the lecture subsequently. They should be in your head. They should be striking. And the moment I say semiconductors, it should automatically come to you. Let's say I say civil services. You would say pre, mains, and interview. These are 3 basic things. Accordingly, when I say semiconductors, the perspective or the thought will be like this, that first keyword which we'll open up and discuss in the classes when I take semiconductors will be something called as the global value chain. The first keyword when I take up this term semiconductors, the first thing will be global value chain. At a very simple level, we'll just see, the meaning of this term global value chain. When I say global value chain, I would like to see the various processes involved in semiconductors. We'll just open up various processes involved in semiconductors, and we'll try to see the different types of nations which will have control over those processes. तो पहले तो हमें ये देखना है कि भाई क्या क्या चीजें सेमीकंडक्टर में होती हैं, what all steps, what all processes we'll study. For example, critical minerals, we had seen exploration, we had seen mining, we had seen processing, we had seen end use. So the same way we'd like to see what? We'd like to see the processes and the countries, and thereby we'll comment upon the entire value chain. Second is what I have already discussed with you, that when I talk about semiconductors, I'm sure everything around you that all of you are using, this screen has got a semiconductor, this screen has got a semiconductor, this laptop has got a semiconductor, your mobile phones has got a semiconductor. When you get up in the morning, your alarm ticks, that is again semiconductor. You go and take a bath, you have coffee. All of these equipments which are around you, from the most technical to the most basic. Most basic will be your simple card, metro card that you are carrying. Even that metro card has got a chip which is detected by the equipment. All of it is your semiconductors. From this perspective, the second keyword which will always come to your heads, which we'll again discuss in the end, should be again what I had discussed earlier. This will be twin revolution. Twin revolution. And when I say twin revolution, I basically imply 2 things. First is clean energy, and second is digital. I have used it in the class earlier. Clean energy, and the second is digital. You can call it revolution, or you can also call it transition. You can call it revolution. We can also call it transition. These keywords we'll just open up. These are the first things that should come to your heads when I discuss semiconductors. Global value chain and twin revolutions. With this thought, let's now break up this topic into different heads that we'll take. We'll be discussing first, number 1, what are semiconductors? That's the first thing. After what are semiconductors, we'll discuss the value chain, or I would say here the processes, the value chain or the processes involved in creation of a semiconductor. After the value chain, this is very important. I'm saying this is very important because it is the door to understand the issues and concerns that this entire sector has. जो भी दुविधाएं इस इंडस्ट्री की है, जो भी समाधान भारत सरकार ने निकाला है और जो हम आगे करना चाहते हैं, वो सारी चीजें हमें यहीं से समझ में आएंगी. After we look at the value chain, we'll discuss the importance. After I've discussed the importance, we'll discuss the issues and challenges. And after I've seen the issues and challenges, we'd automatically discuss what steps have been taken by who? By Government of India. What steps have been taken by the Government of India? That is what they normally ask in mains, problems and solutions which have been offered by the government. Then we'll discuss the outlook. Outlook means future of this sector. क्या इसका future bright है? Is there a scope that we have? Should we look at a particular sector? When nations plan their economies, they will focus. Resources they are limited. आपके पास पैसा limited है, तो ये सारी चीजें आपने करी, पर क्या आने वाले समय में उसका कोई scope है? Is there a scope? That is what we call as what? Outlook. And then finally we'll discuss a way forward. We'll discuss the way forward. This entire page that you write, this is very important, because when we are done with the topic, we'll add the details and you'd write it in the form of keywords to by heart for the examination. So this is the structure. Keep this page empty. Now let's go to a new page. Please write the way I'm telling you in the classes. You make the notes in the exact way I'm making it on the board. Is it fine? Now let's start with the first thing. That we'd like to open. You write down. First point of discussion is, what is a semiconductor? Basic things. What is a semiconductor? Where will you write it? Because you need to know the usability of this material in which section. Where will you write this? What is a semiconductor? We'll basically write this point when I introduce. जब किसी भी आंसर की शुरुआत करेंगे, which I'll discuss in the end, you'd write about this definition. Right? Now let's write down. Semiconductors. You can write the way I write on the board. Semiconductors are distinct class. Semiconductors are distinct class of materials. Each of these keywords are very important. Distinct class of materials which have electrical properties both of metals and non-metals, and these properties can be further modified. And these properties can be further modified, write down, by addition of substances called as dopants. Now see, listen to me carefully. You all know about the earth having several elements, right? For example, oxygen, for example, hydrogen, for example, silicon, for example, what? Iron. What are these? These are all elements. This is basic chemistry. Class 6, 7th, 8th level basic chemistry. Just to inform, but not to be written, each of these elements that we know, they have got arrangement of electrons. They have got arrangement of electrons in their atomic structure. This arrangement of electrons is important to decide whether a particular element is a metal or it is a non-metal. So when I'm saying that non-metals are insulators and I say that copper, aluminium, or generally metals, they are conductors, what I'm trying to see is their electrical properties. कि अगर उससे बिजली भेजी जाए, if we have electricity flowing through it, insulator will resist. For example, if there's a current that is flowing, this is wood, and I touch it, I will not feel anything. But on the other hand, if I replace this with a metal and there's a current that's flowing, I'll immediately get it because this particular substance is what? Deciding the properties. If you conduct, that is metal. If you don't conduct, that is non-metal, wood, glass, plastic. Conducting is what? Your metals. And the nature, interestingly, has given us a separate type of material. For example, silicon, for example, germanium, that their arrangement of electrons which cannot be changed. किसी भी एलिमेंट का एटॉमिक स्ट्रक्चर चेंज नहीं हो सकता, उससे छेड़छाड़ नहीं हो सकती, वो नेचर का रूल है. Some semiconductors have got an arrangement of electrons in such a manner where we are lucky enough to first find them, and those conductors as well as insulators, their property can be modified by addition of substances. I cannot change the property of wood. Wood is wood. Presently, science cannot alter the property of wood. Wood will always remain insulator. Iron will always conduct electricity, but semiconductors, they are in the middle, and that is what we do when we add dopants. Substances like gallium nitride, gallium arsenide, not important, just know the names. We change their property. For example, sand. Balu, as we say in North India. West India, we say reet. Sand is silica. SiO2, that is, silica is a semiconductor. Is it clear till now? Now, just write a term, write down to just open this debate now, because I'm discussing at a very loose end. Semiconductors, both insulator and conductor. Then you write down this term. Transistor. Transistor, not the transistors that you know, not those radios. Transistor. Have you heard it? Has anyone heard about these transistors? No? What is a transistor? Okay, now I'll tell you. Transistor, NPN, PNP, leave it, irrelevant for the examination. P type, N type, we're not teaching engineering. What is a transistor? It's basically the first semiconductor. And this was when, you know that? 1948. You must have heard about a company, just for your information. It is called as Bell Labs. MOSFET is also not important. So the thing is, now listen to me. Semiconductors conduct both, properties both, and based on what I want, we add impurities. So when humankind wanted to make the first semiconductor device, semiconductor is sand. From this sand, when I wanted to make the first semiconductor device, that was made in 1948, which is called as a transistor. Transistor. What is transistor? It is nothing but a switch. Right? There's a switch in this room. I put it on, the light will come. I put it off, the light will go away. Right? This is a transistor. What is it? A semiconductor. It's like a switch. Either the current will pass or the current will not pass. And with this transistor, I would like to come to a term that all of you know, chips. What is a chip? Chip is there in my mobile phone. Chip is there in this camera. Chip is there in the laptop. Chip is there on your debit cards. Chip is there on your metro card. What is a chip? Chip is a device which carries information, right? How does it carry information? What is a chip? हर जगह हम चिप माइक्रोचिप A18 चिप, क्वालकॉम की स्नैपड्रैगन चिप, लैपटॉप की फास्टर चिप. चिप होता क्या है? Chip is nothing but what? It is, I'd not say collection, I'd say it contains several, number one, transistors, number two, resistors, and number three, capacitors. I don't want you to look into these terms, the N2. This is irrelevant. Forget it. Just know that a chip is nothing but many transistors along with some more devices. Just know the name: resistor and capacitor. Resistor and capacitor. Is it clear till now? Now I'll tell you, listen. Semiconductors are substances, both properties. First semiconductor device became your transistor, like a switch. In 1950s, scientists worked on an arrangement where they made the first chip by simply arranging 4 transistors in such a manner so that the current can flow as per the needs of that particular equipment. तो कुछ नहीं किया, एक चिप बनाई. चिप में कुछ भी नहीं था, 4 ट्रांजिस्टर्स को एक सर्किट में कनेक्ट किया और उसको इस्तेमाल करना शुरू किया, जिसको हम अंग्रेजी में बोलते हैं इंटीग्रेटेड सर्किट. इंटीग्रेटेड सर्किट. आईसी खराब हो गई मोबाइल फोन की, आईसी खराब हो गई लैपटॉप की. सो दैट आईसी इज नथिंग बट कलेक्शन ऑफ ट्रांजिस्टर्स. एंड दिस इज व्हेन 1950s. You should be surprised to know that presently the chips that are being manufactured by different companies like Samsung, like Apple, like Nvidia, all of these behemoths, they have arranged the size of the transistors to such an extent that you will have billions of transistors embedded in one chip that started with just 4 of them in 1950s. And that is how those transistors, along with these two, they have been arranged in such a fashion that the semiconductor or chip which is there in your mobile phone, which is there in your laptop, can be made to perform the business that is required by the chip manufacturer. And that is what is referred, just to give you a keyword, as something called as nano competition. Listen to me first. What is called as nano competition? The race to produce the smallest of the smallest semiconductors, which is transistors, put them in a circuit and make a chip. This is a big prospect. This is also a biggest problem of this sector of development for the government of India, which is popularly called as nano competition or ultra fine competition. Is it fine? Please write this point. Write down. A chip is nothing but an arrangement. A chip is nothing but an arrangement of billions of transistors and other devices like capacitors and resistors, where there is a race in terms of technology. There is a race in technology to have more and more transistors embedded in a chip. Comma, popularly referred as write down, nano competition. Nano competition or ultra fine competition. Nano competition or ultra fine. Is it clear? And I'll throw upon this slide. Is it clear? So when I ask you what is ultra fine competition, what is nano competition, you would say that the size of the transistors is getting reduced from just 4 that we had in 1950s to what is billions right now. Is it clear? Now let's go to the next part. This is very important. Write down. This is the most interesting part. Write down the semiconductor. So semiconductors, we don't call it as chips, right? We call it chips right now. We used to call it transistors in 50s because we just have 1, 2. Now we will not call it transistors because there are so many of them. So when I say semiconductor, आज के ज़माने में 60 साल पहले हम बोलते थे ट्रांजिस्टर्स, आज के ज़माने में बोलते हैं चिप नहीं, बोलते हैं माइक्रोचिप, क्योंकि चिप का साइज छोटा होता जा रहा है बिकॉज ट्रांजिस्टर खुद जो कलेक्शन है, चिप कलेक्शन है ट्रांजिस्टर का, वो छोटा होता जा रहा है. इसलिए मैं जहां भी हम सेमीकंडक्टर यूज करते हैं न्यूज़पेपर में, अखबारों में, सरकारी मिशन में, उसका मतलब चिप्स होता है, या हम कई बार कहते हैं आईसीज, इंटीग्रेटेड सर्किट्स, मतलब इंटीग्रेट किया ट्रांजिस्टर्स को चिप बनाने के लिए. दिस सेमीकंडक्टर वैल्यू चेन will have 4 legs, right, the same way like we write here on the board. First is design. First step in chip making is design. Just know these terms, write exact the same way as I write here on the board. After design, we have something which is most interesting, which is like impossible. It is concentrated in the world in just couple of countries, I'd say 5 of them. It is called as fabrication. In English, we call it manufacturing. Manufacturing industry in the language of semiconductors is called as fabrication. You will not say chip manufacturing, I'd say chip fabrication. Popularly, they are also called as foundries. After fabrication, this is the term you find in the newspaper very often, and I'll give you a short form. That is what we find in the newspapers. PM keeps on using it. It is called as ATMP, or it is called as OSAT. ATMP, or it is called as OSAT. Just look at the definition, the abbreviation, you would get some idea. It is assembly, then testing, then not marketing, marking. मार्केटिंग अलग है, मार्केटिंग है बेचना, मार्किंग है मार्क लगाना, ठप्पा लगाना. एंड पैकेजिंग, or it is sometimes also called as OSAT. OSAT is outsourced semiconductor assembly and testing. Outsourced semiconductor assembly and testing. If I ask you what is ATMP, do you get any hints? What is ATMP? I know the full form. मतलब क्या है? Process of what? No, not at all. Apple, Samsung, Nvidia, Qualcomm. What are these companies? They make devices, they make mobile phones. A mobile phone, laptop cannot work unless we have a chip. Those chips, their design, when I say design, I imply that what is the arrangement of those transistors, resistors and capacitors, because we can modify the property of that particular chip as per our need. So different companies of the world, they design the chip. It's like saying if chip was a house, the architects, they on a piece of paper would put up a beautiful design. This is the bathroom, this is the first floor, second floor, so on and so forth. Design has been given by designers. Second is by a process which is called as fabrication. Listen to me carefully, you will never get it. कभी समझ में नहीं आएगा, बहुत मुश्किल एरिया है, कहीं समझ में नहीं आएगा आपको. और ये समझ में आ गया तो उसके बाद केक वॉक है, सब चीजें आसान है, यही बेस है. That chip which has been designed on a computer, that design is sent to a fabrication plant. By very interesting cutting edge processes, they will make a chip. That chip has been made. That chip will be sent to assembly, testing, marking and packaging, which will ensure that the chip manufactured by the fabrication has got the right properties. They will test it using equipment. They will mark. Mark means thappa. They will put the brand of the organization which wants to consume that chip. They will package it in such a manner where finally we go to the last leg, which is end use. End use is what? What is the end use of a chip? It is basically your electronic devices. It is basically your electric vehicles. It is basically your space and defense equipment. For example, agriculture. First step is farm related growth. You put inputs, you get a crop. You take a crop, you transport it to a storage site. From storage site, you sell it to a mandi, and that mandi will then give it to the final shops where we produce it. if you want to design any chip in the world, you will first build a design, like the architect building the design. You build the design, give it to a manufacturing firm, which is like impossible to do. I'll tell you why, which is called as fabrication. That chip has been made, you will assemble it, test it, mark the brand, and then do it for test it, package it. Once you've packaged that particular chip, I'll show you how it works. You give it to the final producers. That chip will be sent to Apple. That chip will be sent to particular company like Tesla, and they will put it in their device and sell it as the final product. Is it clear? Now, I'd like to enter each of these sectors, and I'd like to show you the scope of India along with all the countries which are dominating each of these 4 steps in the entire semiconductor value chain. Is it clear, all of you? Right. With respect to design, chip design, the first thing is, you can write like this: design companies they use what? Design companies use what? They use computer aided software. That is called as CAD. When you are giving any printout, you first write it on your laptop, iPad. You are using a software. You are using Adobe. You are using Word. Those softwares which are used to design a chip, there are companies which have absolutely dominated that particular sector of designing. These companies are very popular. Just know the names. One is Cadence, the other is Synopsys. All companies which are based in US, which do what? Which are designing, producing the softwares. जो सॉफ्टवेयर की मदद से जो चिप का डिजाइन बना रही है दुनिया की सारी कंपनीज, एप्पल बना रही है, इंटेल बना रही है, एनवीडिया बना रही है, वो जिस सॉफ्टवेयर का इस्तेमाल कर रही है उसको बनाने वाली कंपनीज, कुछ चुनिंदा कंपनीज मोस्टली अमेरिकी है. उनमें से एक नाम है केडेंस, उनमें से एक नाम है साइनॉप्सिस. और यहां पे आपको पता होना चाहिए दैट दिस इज अ हाईली स्किल्ड जॉब. Very important. I'll analyze the entire issue by looking at each of these 4 sectors. It is a highly skilled job. And what are the stakes of India? The PM spoke about the scope in September. In the annual semiconductor conference that takes place, he gave you this number and you can never forget it. What is that number? You'd be surprised to know that 20% of chip design engineers across the world are Indians. And just to also tell you, they all are concentrated in the city of Bangalore. I'll use it when I'll discuss the issues and prospects. So every company which is a Western company, our domestic chip design sector is totally nil. But the companies of the world, NVIDIA or Intel, the workforce that is designing those chips in the entire world, 24% of those companies have Indians. It's like saying, if you want to buy a burger from KFC or McDonald's, who is working in these companies? Indians. भारत में जितना मैकडॉनल्ड है कौन काम कर रहा है? इंडियंस. और उस मैकडॉनल्ड्स के बर्गर की रेसिपी कौन बना रहा है? कितनी टिक्की डलेगी, कितना तेल लगे, कितना पानी, कितना सब नमक, वो कौन डिसाइड करता है? रेसिपी किसके पास है? यूएस के पास. यहां पे उस रेसिपी को मैं बोलूंगा आईपीआर, इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी राइट्स, विच इज द कटिंग एज ऑफ द चिप डिजाइन. चिप का डिजाइन खराब हुआ तो वो फेल है डिवाइस. अभी सिर्फ डिजाइन की बात हो रही है. दिस इज ऑल विद द कंपनीज बेस्ड इन यूएस और द वेस्टर्न वर्ल्ड. दिस इज द फर्स्ट थिंग. कंपनीज बेस्ड इन यूएस और द वेस्टर्न वर्ल्ड. Dominance of who? US. Once I have given the design, then I'll go to the next stage, which is called as chip fabrication. This is what? This is the second part of the value chain of the semiconductors. How does it work is very simple. I will have sand, balu, rate. Sand is SiO2. I take this sand, heat it at the highest possible temperature. Heat it, it melts. Remove all the impurities, and then after all the impurities have been removed, I cool it and I create a disc shaped structure. Listen to me carefully. I create a disc shaped structure. This particular disc, which is the first step, is called as a silicon wafer. Wafer खाए आपने? How is a wafer? Extremely thin. Extremely thin. Exact same way, extremely thin silicon 100% purified, ultra purified wafers are used to the extent it is 99.99% pure. 99.99% प्योर है. इस हद तक इसमें प्रिसिजन है, क्योंकि भारत भी ये करना चाहता है कि अगर आप पूरी धरती का डायमीटर नापें, इफ यू मेजर द एंटायर डायमीटर ऑफ द प्लैनेट ऑफ अर्थ, you would need to have a error of less than 1 centimeter. इस हद की प्यूरिफिकेशन होती है. एक भी कोई कीटाणु या कोई भी सब्सटेंस अगर आए उस चिप में, दैट इज अ फेल्ड चिप, बिकॉज आई यूज इट इन द प्रोस्पेक्ट ऑफ माई कंट्री. एंड फ्रॉम दिस चिप विच इज गिवन टू अ फाउंड्री, which is this wafer which is given to a foundry, we apply a process. Just look at the name. This is very important. We apply a process which is called as photolithography. Very important. It nails the value chain. सारी बातें यही खत्म है. Photolithography, where on this particular wafer we create what is this? What is it? Grid? No. No. What's this? Vape. Silicon, melted silicon. I'll show you how this is like a CD. This dimension, I'll tell you, is 300 mm, 30 centimeter. I'll tell you what's the meaning. And from this we apply a process of photolithography, and we create what? No. What are these? What is this? क्या है ये? These are the semiconductor chips. These are what? The semiconductor chips. I'd like to show you something. See, now you try to listen to me and just absorb it. If you understand this, then you understand the beauty of the process and the struggles that we have. What is this? This is a piece of paper, right? Imagine this piece of paper which I have to be what? A silicon wafer. This paper has come from trees. Silicon wafer has come from sand. Extreme purification. And fabrication happens by process of photolithography, and I get something like this. What is it? This is a stamp. And what do I mean to tell you? What's the correlation? Apply your brains, your online ones. Now, listen to me. On this piece of paper, the design of the stamp has been imprinted. इस पे छापा गया है. पहले 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These all are stamps of one person. I can create numerous stamps on this one piece of paper. Is it clear? Exact same way, a silicon wafer which is 99.99% pure, it is put in a machine, and you'd be surprised to know that machine, which is the prerequisite of manufacturing of a chip using photolithography, is manufactured by just one company in the world. That is a Dutch company that is called as, listen to the name, it is called as ASML. On this silicon wafer, we add some material which is sensitive to light, and the design of the chip which has been given to me by the company, I create a stencil like that. Have you seen a stencil? Have you seen a stencil? देखा बचपन में ड्राइंग करने के लिए जो बीच में जगह होती थी वो इम्प्रिंट हो जाता था पेपर पे. Exact same way, those miniature stencils, read it as a stencil, is put on silicon wafer. We put on extreme UV light, and that extreme UV light will imprint the design of the chip, because that mask is made in such a manner that design of the chip is embedded on that particular silicon wafer. So if I want to make this particular chips like this, that machine will first have a mask here, imprint the design, then go here, imprint the design, imprint. All of it is the first step. Imprint has to happen, then we add a dopant, a substance. Again, that machine will imprint the design. Layer by layer, layer by layer, layer by layer. It is almost 40-45 layers that we build one by one, where we have a final stamp. This is just one. If you make it thick, a chip is thick. So it is made thick by having this process again and again going on, where that mask is nothing but it's like a stencil, and that light is passing in such a manner from that mask that on that material which is sensitive to light over the silicon wafer, the entire design of the chips is embedded. To show you a photograph, just to give you a complete feel, because this is an impossible task to do. आपको uninterrupted supply of बिजली चाहिए, आपको ultra pure, extremely clean environment, not even a single nanoscale of dust can be there in that plant. That is what you require to make a semiconductor fabrication, a chip you want to make. And if I'd like to show you something, just have a look here. I'd like to show you how this entire thing looks. What is it? Can you see this? What is this? Can you see the shine? Ultra pure silicon. This is what is gone. This is what is given to a fabrication plant. There's a Japanese company that makes these wafers. I'll show you one more thing. What is it? What is it? This entire silicon wafer has got, through photolithography, embedding of the chip design, where this is one chip, second chip, third chip, fourth chip, exactly how these chips are made. And then finally, this is how it looks like. Start with sand, make a silicon wafer, embed the design using photolithography, and this is what a final chip looks like, with the attachment of the brand A18, Samsung, Qualcomm, and from here it is sent to the respective manufacturer which is making. For example, iPhone. I'll send this chip to China. All the iPhones are assembled in China, or now to the factory that Apple has in Sri Perumbudur, a place near Chennai, where the company called as Foxconn has made a plant which is trying to assemble iPhones in India. Do you understand? Do you understand? Sand, wafer, photolithography, and then finally the chip. This is all about the fabrication process, right? Please write down under fabrication. Please write down under fabrication. Write down under fabrication. Write down in photolithography. In photolithography, extreme UV, application of UV, they ask you questions in prelims, 2-3 technologies they'll give you the name of. They'll say where is it applicable. They asked pumped water storage in prelims this year. They will ask bioreactor membrane, where is it used? So they might ask you photolithography. Used where? Fabrication. How? Extreme UV is used to print the chip design. Chip design where? On the silicon wafer. On the silicon wafer. Only one company is doing it in the world. It is called as ASML. Based where? ASML. It's a sister company of Philips. Based where? It's a company that is based in Netherlands. Without this machine, there can be no fabrication of chips. And I also require what? I also require certain gases, and I also require certain chemicals, and I also require the fabrication equipment. Several machines which are used in this process. So if I want to set up a fab in India, I would need what? If I want to set up a fabrication plant in India, what's the thing I require? I would need to talk to ASML, import that machine. I would need to talk to companies like DuPont based in US, get these chemicals and gases, because I remove some dirt also, and I need to get the extra equipment, extra machine which is required to build a fabrication plant. What's the status in India? The status, I might have 20% of design staff, but the status in my country is very simple. The status is very simple, that there is no fabrication plant in the country till now. The government of India, in the steps that we'll write, is focusing like anything on creation of fabrication plants. We have started a scheme in November 2021, but the first investment that we have got for fabrication is when? First approval or the first approved plant fab happened when? Do you know that? At least 5 times an article came up in the Express, in the business section. It happened in June 2023, where Tatas are setting up a plant with who? With who? With a company which is called as PSMC. Have you heard? What is PSMC? power chip semiconductor manufacturing company. It is a company that is based in Taiwan. Hindu reports it is a 300 mm fabrication plant. Have you heard this term? 300 mm fabric. What is 300 mm? क्या है ये चीज? 30 centimeter. It's the diameter of. It's the diameter of. This is the diameter of the wafer. आज के जमाने में कटिंग एज है 30 सेंटीमीटर. इसको हम बड़ा कर रहे हैं. We want the wafers to be of the size of 45 सेंटीमीटर. तो और चिप्स बनेंगी, प्रोसेसिंग और तेज होगी, फैब्रिकेशन और अधिक चिप्स बनाएगा. That is how we say a 300 mm fabrication plant has been approved, and this has been approved where? कहां है ये प्लांट? It is there. गुजरात में कहा? गुजरात में कहा? गुजरात में ढोलेरा, their investment region. In a place called as Dholera. The first fabrication plant got approved in Assam. True or false? False. And the global situation? You'd be surprised to know 80% of the fabs are concentrated where? And Taiwan and साउथ कोरिया. 80% विश्व की कितनी चिप्स छोटी से छोटी फैब्रिकेट होती हैं, बनती हैं फाउंड्रीज में? कहां पे? ताइवान. एंड यू वांट टू नो द स्केल? यू स्पोक अबाउट अल्ट्रा फाइन कॉम्पिटिशन. दिस चिप दैट वी आर मेकिंग is 28 nanometer. Now listen, hang on. When I'm saying 28 nanometer, it means 28 into 10 to the power 9 meters. You understand it as the size of a transistor. समझने के लिए क्या आप सोच सकते हैं आपके बालों के स्ट्रैंड को भी आप और छोटा करें? इतना छोटा ट्रांजिस्टर एम्बेड करने की क्षमता है इस फैब्रिकेशन प्लांट के पास. और 28 नैनोमीटर तो बहुत ही बड़ा है. ताइवान आज के जमाने में इन द प्रेजेंट कॉन्टेक्स्ट यू वुड बी सरप्राइज्ड टू नो it has got fabs which are capable of building chips to the order of what? 2 nanometer. 2 nanometers. And that is why this is just a dummy. This is just very less that we have done in the entire scope of semiconductor fabrication in the country. और यहां पे भी कोई टेक्नोलॉजी ट्रांसफर नहीं हुआ है. It is a very basic arrangement that PSMC has got with, Tatas. Is it fine? And I told you, it requires fabrication equipments. Those companies that make that equipment, photolithography, which is embedding the design, that is ASML. You got to know some companies which make fabrication equipment, the machines which are used. Some of them is, have you heard these names? Applied Material and LAM, LAM, LAM Research. Applied Material and LAM Research, they all are based in US. अभी तो इश्यूज डिस्कस नहीं किए. वी केप्ट ऑन वेटिंग सिंस 2021 नवंबर में भारत सरकार ने 76,000 करोड़ की स्कीम दी कि आओ भाई आओ, फैब्रिकेशन आओ. 3 कंपनीज आई, तीनों ने सरकार से बात करी, तीनों ने अपनी फैक्ट्री एस्टैब्लिश नहीं करी. द फर्स्ट सेमीकंडक्टर प्लांट, न्यूज़पेपर से फर्स्ट सेमीकंडक्टर प्लांट, यू गॉट टू आस्क देम कौन सा प्लांट, फैब्रिकेशन या ATMP? द फर्स्ट प्लांट विच गॉट एस्टैब्लिश्ड इन इंडिया, नॉट एस्टैब्लिश्ड, अप्रूव्ड, was last year in June. That was ATMP plant, where after these chips have been made, these chips which have been produced here, now they go to the next stage. because you just need to assemble, test and package. That is comparatively easier. That is where India has got 4 factories approved in the recent times. That is why the number of semiconductor factories that we have is 4 plus 1 fab, that is 5 reported in the newspapers. Is that fine? So you write down under ATMP now, the third side of your this thing, write down your ATMP. This is less capital intensive. This is less capital intensive, and we have 4 plants approved in the country. 4 plants approved in the country. Write down the very first one. 4 plants approved in the country. First one, as I told you, was in June 2023. This is to be made by Micron, US company. Second, we had 3 plants. When in February 24, Tata's will establish in Morigaon. Then there is another group which is called as CJ Power. CG Power, just know the name. It is establishing where in a place which is called as Sanand. Where is Sanand? In Odisha, in Gujarat. And this was in news because there was a factory which Tata's had to build in a place called as Singur for Tata Nano. But because of protest, it got transferred to Sanand. Right? So the Micron plant is there in Sanand. This plant of Tata's is in Assam, Moregaon. This plant of CG Power is again in where? It's in Sanand. And there is one more plant. It got recently approved. Write down the latest plant. I'll write it here. The latest plant is August 2024. And this particular plant you write down is built by a company, just know your name. It is called as Kenies. It is called as Kenies Semiconductor Company. Just know the name. So the entire story of the value chain is the entire way to embed in my head what all problems this sector has and what all solutions Government of India is giving and what I need to do in the future, because PM says that I'm focusing not on any one of these 3. I'm focusing on all the 3, in fact, all the 4. He's trying to develop a semiconductor ecosystem hub in the country so that we design the chips in India. First part, we manufacture the chips in India and we test, assemble and package the particular chips in my country. Right? I'll complete this, just 1 minute. I'll complete this entire chain. This is a chip that I got from here. This chip looks something like this. This chip which I have produced here, which I had shown you in the photograph, this chip looks like this. This is how it is out from the foundry. When it goes to ATMP plant, they'll do what? What will they do? They will attach these copper wires सर्किट पे जोड़ने के लिए इस चिप को, ताकि बिजली का फ्लो हो as per the needs. We attach copper wires. If you open your mobile phone or you see, let's say a laptop, it is soldered using an alloy on that particular tray of your laptop or mobile phone. This is what you do. So they will attach these copper wires. Then they'll do what? Test it. काम कर रही है सर्किट पे अच्छी तरह नहीं. Is it working? Then they'll do what? Assembly testing. Then they'll do what? They'll do what? Marking. I'll write A18. Put the stamp of the company that is using it. And then finally we'll send it to the companies which are using it. So what you see as sand, it is finally getting reflected as a marked chip which is full on ready to be utilized by the companies. So if you look at the ad of Apple, just go and see their website. They will show you a chip with light from behind. That is the chip which has been produced here. They will not show you these wires. They'll just show you A18, and they will just show you light in the background. A18, A17, M1, M2, M3, M4. All of these are chips ready for end use. And you know about Samsung? Samsung Electronics. What is it? It's a car making company, right? Makes mobile phones, right? You'd be surprised to know that this Korean company, Samsung, just to give you a thought, because I'm starting with issues, it is one of the very few companies of the world which is controlling all the 4 pillars of the value chain of the semiconductors. They will, number 1, design. Number 2, they will send to their foundries. Samsung is making chips for itself. It is also making chips in a fabrication plant for other brands. It will assemble, test, mark and package. It will send to its own particular factory where Samsung will produce you mobile phones, laptops. Each end of this entire value chain is controlled by very few companies. One of them is Samsung. It is called as integrated design manufacturers. They are called as IDMs, just to know this from the perspective of the semiconductor field. Is it fine? Now, if you understand value chain, now we'll have a thought. Come to a new page and we'll make a table and we'll discuss what? Issues and steps taken by Government of India. Yes. We have a wafer. That wafer is cut. That wafer is cut. When that wafer is cut, transistor is design is embedded on that wafer that is cut. We add a dopant, then we again put light, then we again add a layer and dopant. We keep on doing that process, and yes, that chip will, the transistor is embedded on that silicon wafer layer by layer. So we ऐसा अलग से कुछ ट्रांजिस्टर होता नहीं, उसको कट ऐसे करते हैं कि वो बिहेव एक ट्रांजिस्टर की तरह करता है. Yeah, that is why I'm saying layer by. This is 2D. This thing that you have, this is 2D. So what we'll do is this is first layer of photolithography. Then I'll add the substance on it. Thickness increases. Again, put that photolithography machine. That design gets embedded. Yes, that layer gets collated to become several transistors. वो जो लेयर है वो एक मटेरियल की है, उसको हमने काटा, वो लेयर हट गई, मटेरियल हट गया, नीचे सिलिकॉन का वेफर है. उसके बाद फिर हम उसमें डोपेंट्स डालते हैं, फिर से उसके ऊपर डिजाइन एम्बेड करते हैं, और वो डिजाइन इस लेवल की कार्विंग करता है उस वेफर के ऊपर कि वो बहुत सारे ट्रांजिस्टर्स उसके अंदर डिजाइन के थ्रू बनते हैं, एम्बेड होते हैं. तो हमें ये नहीं जानना, हमें बस ये जानना है कि ट्रांजिस्टर्स कनेक्ट होके बिलियंस किसमें यूज होते हैं, चिप के अंदर। चिप कैसे बन रही है, फैब्रिकेशन प्लांट में विद द प्रोसेस ऑफ फोटोलिथोग्राफी, जो कि किसी भी कंट्री के लिए मुश्किल है बिकॉज दैट इज कंट्रोल्ड बाय द डच। ठीक है, बस इसके ज्यादा सेमीकंडक्टर टेक्नोलॉजी में इससे ज्यादा नहीं जाना। बस ये समझने के लिए जरूरी है कि अब आगे वाले इश्यूज अब हमें यहां समझ में आएगा। जैसे कि प्लीज राइट डाउन द फर्स्ट इशू विच आई हैव इज द इशू ऑफ डिजाइन टेक्नोलॉजी। In design technology, what is the issue? I have skilled workforce. I have skilled workforce तो मेरे पास है. I have got the skilled workforce, but the problem is what? Skilled workforce तो है, but what is the problem? Yes, the IPR is held by US. So I'd say there is a lack of original research. Yeah, patents, yes, held by companies, by Western companies, Intel, Nvidia, they are employing me, but it is basically a product of that particular company. So I'll say we have engineers working for different companies. I'd say like this, there is lack of domestic design of chips. This entire business, if you can remember, is just 150 crores. 150 करोड़ मात्र का बिजनेस है, just 150 crores in the entire country. Is that fine? That's the thing of design. Second problem that we need to have is of fabrication. Fabrication के लिए क्या problems है? Fabrication of chips. Issues क्या है fabrication के? Number one, they require large infrastructure. When I say they require large infrastructure, that means what? What do you mean by large infrastructure? No. Large infra means you need power supply. You need skilled workforce, not for designing, skilled workforce to work in a fab plant. So you need skilled workforce and you need huge investment. Huge investment, you know what is the investment? Huge investment to build what? To build the plant. And what else? Huge investment is required to build the plant. It is also required, huge investment is also required for what? It is also required for R&D, research and development. It is also required for research and development. The entire revenue that is earned by a fabrication plant, 25% of it, 25% of it is going where? It is going into R&D sector. Right? And along with this, we also require ultra clean water. This is the problem of fabrication of chips. Then what is the issue for us? सब अरेंज कर लिया, but we are not able to build semiconductors. What is the reason? Tell me. very few countries of the world are the countries which are controlling the entire semiconductor value chain. It is not easy to enter. You want to build a fabrication, you cannot build a fabrication plant unless you get in touch with Taiwan. They will not transfer technology. You want an assembly testing plant, you need to find a partner from where? South Korea, Japan. You want to get a chip designed, you need to coordinate with NVIDIA. Please come and hire my engineers. Please train some domestic companies. Please train some startups. And add to this the problem that India is a late entrant in the sector, which has further compounded the problems. एक तो पहले ही आप लेट एंटर कर रहे हो, अब कंट्रीज डाइवर्सिफाई कर रही हैं, वो खुशी की बात है, पर यू आर एंटरिंग, यू वांटेड अ स्कीम, यू वर विलिंग टू स्पेंड मनी. I'll tell you that amount in November 21. Nobody came till June 2023. Almost I'd say 2 years, not even a single penny of investment. Ministry of Electronics was waiting. Bureaucrats were waiting. There were meetings happening, but not even a single plant, a single company was willing to invest in this country. Despite you being ready, you are willing to spend money, but nobody came. Because it's a closely knit circle of countries, and you are late entrant, and also you are also unfortunate that the leaders are now developing their own ecosystem. Are you understanding? Countries like US and EU, they have understood the importance now. They understood it, but they were going outsourcing to Taiwan because of cost constraints. Now they are saying that US and EU, it is saying, now I will focus on building domestic ecosystem. एक तो वैसे ही आप इकोसिस्टम से दूर थे, और बदकिस्मती ये थी जब आप जाना चाहते हैं तो इन्वेस्टर कौन आएगा भारत में? ताइवान यहां आएगी या टेक्सास इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स के साथ टेक्सास में फैक्ट्री लगाएगी? कहां जाएगी? ऑब्वियसली यूएस. खुली जमीन है, खुली बिजली है, पूरा गवर्नमेंट सपोर्ट. सरकार का काम क्या? लॉ पास किया है. हाउ डू यू नॉट नो दिस? दे पास्ड अ लॉ in 2022. Have you heard about this law? It is called, please write down, Chips and Science Act. They passed this law, Chips and Science Act. Have you heard this law? Chips and Science Act. Please write down the full form. Are you able to write the same way as I'm writing on the board? Table, tabulated. I cannot write it because I have to write a lot. Write down. Is it clear, the online ones? Okay, write down this name of the law. Chips and Science. Write down creating healthy incentives. Creating healthy incentives. Creating healthy incentives for promotion of semiconductors. So आप तो you're gone, because these countries, they are controlling, and they were controlling a part of it. US was controlling design. In 60s, 70s, they outsourced because of cost. Now they want to get all of it back, and there's a concern that even if you want to work with it and they give you some space, you are actually fighting what? Ultra fine competition. Because the biggest problem is ever changing, or you can write down quickly changing technology. It is improving. In bracket, write down because of ultra fine competition. Because of ultra fine competition. because of ultra fine competition. The number of transistors which can be embedded. The number of transistors which can be embedded. Remember, number of transistors, billions, which can be embedded on a chip. Embedded on a chip is doubling. दुगुना हो रहा है, 100 से 200, 200 400 से 800 every 18 months. How can you accommodate yourself in this ever changing technology? जहां पहले 1 बिलियन ट्रांजिस्टर एक चिप में एम्बेड हो रहे थे, अब वो 2 मिलियन हो रहे हैं 1.5 साल बाद. 2021 में आपने स्कीम लॉन्च करी, जून 2023 में यू हैव गॉट द फर्स्ट प्लांट. जब तक वो बनाएगा तब तक ताइवान तो और भी पीको में चला जाएगा. 10 to the power minus 12. Ever, it's changing like anything. Look at the size of computers. From the desktops in the next 10 years, it is getting slimmer and slimmer. That is the example. You are entering this sector and then you've got more problems. Write down policy issues. What is policy issue that you have? Policy issues क्या हैं? What are the policy issues? What are the policy issues? No, IPR will not come here. We have administrative procedures which are cumbersome. सबसे बड़ी बात, सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम आपके टैक्सेशन लॉज. यू हैव गॉट हाई इंपोर्ट टैरिफ्स. ताइवान को बुला तो लिया, पर इक्विपमेंट फैक्ट्री तो ASML भेजेगी ना आपके पास फोटोलिथोग्राफी मशीन. केमिकल्स ड्यूपॉन्ट विल सेल यू. Is that fine? Look at the priority, the way we are writing, and then you write down and environmental concerns. Environmental concerns like requirement of ultra clean water might affect your groundwater, supply. I'll discuss Viresh Pandey, what you are saying in suggestions later. Yeah. Clean water, which would affect your groundwater supply. पानी कहां से लेंगे? Groundwater से. और पानी देने के लिए, I am forgetting the number, the amount of water that they require is phenomenal. You cannot remember it, so I did not remember it. It's phenomenal. Much more than you require for a normal industry. आप इसको आम उद्योग की तरह मत देखिए. इसमें सब कुछ कटिंग एज है. Is it fine? And then last you write down this industry. The biggest problem is susceptible to your keyword. It is susceptible to what? Supply chain constraints. You remember the last class? What were the supply chain constraints? अगर आपने लास्ट क्लास अटेंड करी है, आप उसको रिवाइज करके उसके ऊपर ही हम बिल्ड करेंगे. Because at the end of the day, the number of keywords that we have in the exam, they are limited. So you need to revise it. Because I told you, supply chain constraints, number one, it has got because of pandemic shocks. Example I had given you was what? Pandemic shock. कौन सा pandemic आया अभी? COVID. Then also I had told you the second point here. War was third. Chinese dominance. डिजाइन में इतनी नहीं है. डिजाइन में तो भाई यूएस बहुत आगे है. डोमिनेंस कहां है? डोमिनेंस कहां है? फैब्स इतनी नहीं, पर भारत से तो ज्यादा ही है. एंड ATMP plants. And obviously your third point, war. Ukraine-Russia war has disrupted the supply chain. Right? They are not producing, but they are involved in the global supply routes. I am transporting from the major supply routes. The Persian Gulf and the Strait of Bab el-Mandab, Red Sea, it has all been stopped because of, not Persian Gulf, Red Sea has got totally affected by the strike of Houthis on the vessels. We are coming down the Cape of Good Hope now. तो सप्लाई चेन तो इफेक्ट हो ही रही है भाई. ASML पहले महीने में आ रही थी, अब वो 3 महीने में आएगी. और हर 18 महीने में तो आपकी टेक्नोलॉजी चेंज हो रही है. Are you trying to understand my point? How it is all connected? And then the last point that you wrote was, it is already closed. इस इंडस्ट्री में, सेक्टर में एंटर करना इज ऑलरेडी इम्पॉसिबल. बट यूएस चाइना जियोपॉलिटिकल राइवलरी ने क्या किया है? बी एक्टिव मेंटली, अदरवाइज यू नॉट गेट इट. जैसे आप करंट अफेयर्स पढ़ रहे हो वैसे नहीं तैयार होंगे, भूल जाओगे सारा मैगजीन वैगजीन. इसलिए इसको समझने की कोशिश करो. ये स्ट्रैंड हम हर चीज में यूज करेंगे. थॉट बहुत जरूरी है, तभी याद होगा. बताइए क्या हुआ है यूएस चाइना राइवलरी से? द ऑनलाइन स्टूडेंट्स, एक तो पहले ही क्लोज थी, अब इसमें भी प्लेयर्स आपस में भिड़ गए हैं. US China war has broken the supply chain. No, now US is diversifying. So I could have imported something from ATMP, let's say a product from China. I could have got a chip from China and put it in a EV in India. But because of US China war, there might be a threat of sanctions. China might not want to export to countries which are having a good relationship with US. 2023 में US ने बोला ASML को मत दो इनको मशीनें. 5-6 महीने तक एक फोटोलिथोग्राफी मशीन नहीं पहुंची, और ये मशीनें तकनीकी तौर पे कटिंग एज है. हर साल दर साल इसमें इंप्रूवमेंट हो रही है, तभी तो ज्यादा ट्रांजिस्टर एम्बेड हो रहे हैं. तो पुराने जमाने की मशीनें दी जा रही हैं अभी चाइना को. कटिंग एज फैब्रिकेशन 1 mm 2 mm will be made only by few countries, which is Taiwan, and 10 years down the line, because of Chips and Science Act, it might be the case of US. Do you understand my points? So you write down, US-China geopolitical rivalry has further constrained the supply chain. समझ में आ रहा है आपको कि एग्जाम में पॉइंट्स लिखने कैसे हैं? वी हैव टू राइट प्रिसाइज पॉइंट्स. सिर्फ ये नहीं लिखना यूएस चाइना जियोपॉलिटिकल. नो, यू नीड टू एक्सप्लेन व्हाट इज द इफेक्ट ऑफ दिस यूएस चाइना जियोपॉलिटिकल राइवलरी. These are the problems. Now, go back to that table. Write down number 1. What is India doing? What is India doing? What is India doing? क्या है भारत की स्ट्रैटेजी? किस पे फोकस करें आप बताइए. डिजाइन पे जाएं, पैकेजिंग पे जाएं, फैब में जाएं, एंड यूज में जाएं, कहां जाएं? टेल मी, यू वांट टू पार्टिसिपेट? टेल मी, हैव अ थॉट. ऐसे न्यूज़पेपर्स क्या कहते हैं प्रधानमंत्री? फोकस ऑन व्हाट? द एंटायर इकोसिस्टम. Focus on the entire ecosystem and make what? India as semiconductor hub. What does the PM say? Make चिप्स इन इंडिया. जब तक ये नहीं दिखाएंगे आंसर में या इंटरव्यू में, कुछ नहीं मिलेगा. वो पूछता रहेगा और उसको वही सुनना है. आई टोल्ड यू, गवर्नमेंट लैंग्वेज लिंगो इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. जब तक ये नहीं लिखेंगे कुछ नहीं मिलेगा मार्क्स. एंड what? Tell me. Make chips in India or design chips in India. This is the intro to the steps which have been taken by the government of India. Now you write down the first step which has been taken by the government of India. It's very important. The first step, write down. I'll write it separately now in the steps. The first step, write down. See the steps. Write down the government of India. The government of India, first step, has launched Semicon India program. Semicon India program. What is the amount of money? 76,000 crores, and we started it in November 2021. Semicon India program, flagship. It is like Ayushman Bharat of Ministry of Health. This is Ayushman Bharat of which ministry? Yes, Ministry of इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स एंड इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी. कौन सी मिनिस्ट्री क्या करती है, टिप्स पे होना चाहिए, ऐसे क्लियर होगा. जो प्रीलिम्स में क्वेश्चंस आते हैं कि कौन सी स्कीम कौन सी मिनिस्ट्री इज इंप्लीमेंटिंग, यू नॉट कंपेयर इट, यू कैन नॉट डू इट अनलेस यू अंडरस्टैंड द थॉट लाइक दिस. वी आर फोकसिंग ऑन व्हाट? एंटायर इकोसिस्टम. नाउ लुक एट द ब्यूटी. इट हैज गॉट फर्स्ट डिजाइन इंसेंटिव स्कीम. You design. I know we just have 150 crore domestic design industry. Design in my country, I'll pay you money. I'll subsidize. Second, you are saying you want fabrication, you make in my country. We are having modified incentive for semiconductor फैब. करना पड़ेगा. सिंगापुर ने किया, ताइवान ने किया, ऑल द नेशंस हैव डन इट. यू नो द अमाउंट ऑफ सब्सिडी दैट वी आर गिविंग. कितना दे रहे हैं? यू रिक्वायर $1 to $2 billion to establish one fabrication plant. We are subsidizing, you know how much? Make a guess. कितना सब्सिडाइज करेंगे हम? गेस करो. Give me a guess. 50 is Bharat Sarkar. And you'd be surprised to know Gujarat state government is giving 20% extra. So out of $2 billion which I want to spend, the Indian government with the states, good example of cooperative federalism, they are holding hands. They are saying 70% cost. I'll pay you. 30% पैसा आप लगाओ. 30% भी बहुत ज्यादा है. And then it is not only this. I also have a scheme for modified incentive for display fab. समझ में आया? डिस्प्ले फैब ऑनलाइन. डिस्प्ले फैब्स. What are display fabs? This is a display. This is a display. Your mobile phone has a display. Your tablet has a display. Your laptop has a display. Your TVs have got a display. Monitors have got display. Projectors have got display. All of them we are trying to promote since 2021 under this scheme, which is called as Semicon India. And then comes the fourth part that we have. This is where we got more successful. क्योंकि fabrication unit सिर्फ एक आया. One. Where? In Dholera. Tata's and PSMC. What is PSMC? Power Chip Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. Be alert. This fourth is modified incentive. किसके लिए modified incentive? For ATMP. भाई सरकार सोच समझ के काम करती है. सरकार ने एक एक चीज करके फोकस किया ना। पहले बोला कि पैसे देती हूं मैं, आओ तुम लगाओ एटीएमपी प्लांट्स, फिर बोला डिजाइन कुछ नहीं हो रहा, 150 करोड़ की इंडस्ट्री, आई विल गिव यू मोर मनी, और अब फैब्रिकेशन की बात हो रही है। ये फ्लैगशिप स्कीम है। इसके अलावा सेकंड, नंबर 2, यू नो वी हैव अ फैब्रिकेशन प्लांट इन माय कंट्री, एनीवन नोज? नॉट अ फैब्रिकेशन, वी हैव फैब्रिकेटेड चिप्स, नॉट द वे ताइवान डज। They are making a brownfield investment. Brownfield, greenfield क्या होता है? There is a, actually we thought, हम प्रधानमंत्री ने स्पीच में ये कहा कि हम सरकारी नीतियों की गलती थी। 60 के 70 के दशक में, 60s 70s, these western US, इंटेल तब था क्या? 48 में तो पहला ट्रांजिस्टर बना है, 58 में 10 साल के बाद, 10 years you've taken to build a circuit, और सर्किट बनाने के बाद यूएस को लगा यार नाउ लेट्स आउटसोर्स, यहां तो भाई बहुत महंगी लेबर है। और जब ब्रेन ड्रेन भारत में शुरू हो रहा था, IITs had acquired prominence, these guys came to your country, you know that, but we said अरे ये क्या है? PM said that Congress was not interested and they had gone to these Southeast Asian countries. आपने मना कर दिया, वो सिंगापुर गए। सिंगापुर में कौन थे प्रधानमंत्री? ही इज अ वेरी पॉपुलर पर्सन, ही इज लाइक हाउ डू आई टेल यू, मुस्तफा केमल अटाटर्क फॉर टर्की is what is this person, his name is Lee Kuan Yew. There is a very popular school of public policy in the entire world. जब अधिकारी बनेंगे तो सरकार आपको पढ़ने के लिए पैसा देगी, आप हार्वर्ड कैनेडी स्कूल जाएंगे मास्टर्स इन पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन करने, वैसे यहां भी जा सकते हैं। सिंगापुर में there's a very popular school, it is called as Lee Kuan Yew, LEEKUANYEW School of Public Policy. He was the PM of Singapore. He got after the US president. नहीं, आओ 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 आओ, मैं दूंगा तुम्हें सपोर्ट। और सिंगापुर है कितना छोटा, छोटे से भी छोटा, राजेंद्र नगर जितना होगा, शुरू होते ही खत्म हो जाता है। It ends before it starts. They've got fabrication plants, 10% fabrication industries plants विश्व के सिंगापुर में है। Can you imagine? If you ever go to Singapore as an ambassador, I hope you ever go, you will feel claustrophobic. कुछ है ही नहीं वहां पे करने को, कुछ भी नहीं है, तो बहुत, पर खत्म ही हो जाता है। They got semiconductor value chain because of one person. That is what the government, this industry is based on spoon feeding. Just like you are wanting current affairs, spoon feeding, even the spoon which is feeding you, you have to feed the spoon, fork, utensils inside the investor to get this industry. That's the scope of this industry. मैं आपको ये समझाना चाह रहा हूं। ऐसे ही नहीं इस भारत सरकार इतना पैसा लगा रही है, अब धीरे धीरे इट इज गोइंग फॉर ब्राउनफील्ड इन्वेस्टमेंट वेयर इन सेमीकंडक्टर लेबोरेटरी, SCL, सुना होगा नाम। कहां है SCL? मोहाली। वी आर इन्वेस्टिंग 10,000 करोड़, बड़ी अच्छी फैक्ट्री है। मोहाली is actually known because of SCL. Outskirts, 71 sector के आगे। What are we doing? We are establishing a semiconductor research center. A 10,000 crore we are investing in SCL, Semiconductor Laboratory. And now you had said semiconductor mission. Semiconductor mission is not a scheme. What is semiconductor mission? Have you heard about NSM? National Semiconductor Mission. National Semiconductor Mission is what? It is not a scheme. It is what? An implementing body. Implementing body under किसके अंडर है? अंडर डिजिटल इंडिया कॉरपोरेशन. It is basically a not for profit company. which is working under Ministry of Electronics and IT. This is the main important body that is implementing the scheme. फैब्रिकेशन, डिजाइन, मिशन सब कर दिया। और बताइए, यू गॉट नो आइडिया अबाउट दिस टॉपिक, इट इज सच एन इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग। इतना न्यूज़पेपर में आ रहा है हर बार, और ये इसके नोट्स भी नहीं कहीं मिलेंगे आपको। मैं टॉपिक्स ही ऐसे चुन रहा हूं। ये छोटे मोटे टॉपिक तो आईआर और ये जो आप पढ़ते हो जजमेंट्स, ये तो कभी भी हो जाएंगे। ये मुद्दे हैं जिसमें टेक्निकल पॉइंट्स आपसे जीएस पेपर 3 में पूछेगा। वो जीएस पेपर 3 बड़ा टफ है हैंडल करना, उसको लोकेट करना इज वेरी टफ। डोंट वरी अबाउट सिलेबस कंप्लीशन, वो तो मैं, दैट्स माय हेडेक। यू फोकस अबाउट दीज प्रायोरिटीज। You should be able to tell me, sir, this is not important. How will you have a check on me? Though it's not required, but still. Tell me the next point. PM is going to these conferences. How can you not know? We organize this annual conference. Annual conference. एनुअल कॉन्फ्रेंस का नाम भी सेमिकॉन इंडिया रखा है भारत सरकार ने। कंफ्यूज नहीं होना, बस भारत सरकार जब लिखती है तो कैप्स में लिख देगी उसको, सेमिकॉन इंडिया कॉन्फ्रेंस। व्हाट इज द फोकस? क्यों कोई कॉन्फ्रेंस कराता है? कॉलेज में, यूनिवर्सिटी में कॉन्फ्रेंस क्यों होती है? सेमिनार्स होते हैं। आई और आईएएस बनी है, सेमिनार आईएएस बनने का। ये धुरंधर आए हैं। क्यों होता है सेमिनार? बताइए ना, मुस्कुराइए मत, सोचिए। हम एक कॉन्फ्रेंस कराते हैं हर साल, केडेंस, साइनॉप्सिस, माइक्रोन, टेक्सास इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स, इंटेल, एनवीडिया, इनके सीईओज को बुलाते हैं, मुख्य कार्यकारी अधिकारी, आइए भारत में, देखिए क्या है हमारे पास। मोदी जी ने स्टेटमेंट दिया था ना, क्या स्टेटमेंट दिया था? ऑनलाइन। द चिप्स आर नेवर डाउन इन इंडिया। पर इसको समझाने के पीछे बहुत बड़ी कहानी समझानी पड़ेगी। जैसे हिंदी में मुहावरे होते हैं, इन इंग्लिश वी गॉट इडियम्स। वी से दैट लेट द चिप्स फॉल वेरेवर दे मे, कि जो हो देखा जाएगा। पर प्रधानमंत्री सेइंग कि जो हो देखा नहीं जाएगा, आप भारत में आइए, डिजाइन करिए, सरकार पूर्णतः आपका साथ देगी। हम तो देंगे ही देंगे, राज्य सरकारें भी आपको सब्सिडी देंगी। सो व्हेन दे ऑर्गेनाइज द सेमिकॉन इंडिया, दे डिड इन हैदराबाद, पीएम वर्चुअली एड्रेस दैट। He virtually addressed, that's my answer for my steps taken by, he's given this answer to me, I read it. इससे ज्यादा क्या चाहिए? सरकारी नीति है। We organized to showcase the semiconductor ecosystem. और बताइए, इंजीनियर्स कहां से लाएंगे? और जो लाएंगे वो आईएएस की तैयारी करेंगे। तो चिप्स कौन बनाएगा? You'd be surprised to know the ones who've done it. कितनों ने इंजीनियरिंग करी है? Raise your hands. Okay, you had electronics in your college? Mechanical. What about you? Electronics you didn't have, right? Yes. You? Electronics थी? No. I'm asking whether your college had electronics engineering. Your college had? Which college? But tell me. That has got electronics. That's good. Because IIT Delhi doesn't have it. Big universities, big colleges, they don't teach electronics. ये सिंगापुर ने किया। प्रधानमंत्री ने कहा कि मेरे पास आओ, मैं आपको फैब्रिकेशन प्लांट की जगह देता हूं, क्लस्टर देता हूं, बनाओ फैक्ट्री, और मैं देता हूं आपको टैलेंट। पूरा इकोसिस्टम मेरे पास ही है, आप बस आओ, प्लग एंड प्ले, पैसा लगाओ, यू रीप द बेनिफिट्स। That is what AICT is doing. Very importantly, AICT is promoting. What is AICT? All India Council for Technical Education. It is doing what? मुस्कुरा क्यों रहे हो इतना? AICT क्या करती है? It is registering all the technical colleges, which is engineering. They have starting courses where for diploma, UG and PG. किसमें? In electronics and semiconductors. Regulation is done by AICT. Which ministry? Ministry of Education. AICT. ठीक है? Now there's one more thing. I tell you the way to the future. Design we have focused. Fabrication I have focused. ATMP I have focused. End use तो we are all end use. भरमार है लोगों की, खरीदने वालों की. इंडस्ट्री लाने की जरूरत है. But there is one more thing. The government is planning. It is right on the cards. It is planning Semicon India 2.0. Second version of the 76,000 crores of Semicon India scheme that we had launched in November 2021. ये उसका दूसरा वर्जन है. किस पे फोकस करेगी? Tell me. It is focusing on, now that is why I discussed this value chain. You should have this thought. Yeah. Tell me, this is the entire fab process before you. Where will we focus before you? Semicon India 2.0 will focus on what? The investment where? Fabrication industry में किस में? वो तो बने नहीं सकता. हम एक अमेरिका नहीं बना पा रहा, हमें तो 1000, 2000, 50,000 साल लग जाएंगे. No, design is different. Designer focus, no DLI. Semicon India 1.0, we are focusing. देखिए सरकार कैसे सोचती है 10 साल आगे की. हालांकि हम थोड़ा पीछे सोच रहे हैं, पर पीछे सोच के फिर आगे की सोचते हैं. दैट इज व्हाट वी आर डूइंग. बहुत जरूरी है ये इंडस्ट्री. आप किसी अधिकारी से किसी उससे बात करें, वो आपको बताएगा. This is very important. We are focusing now on, we will focus, it is right, it is not even true, we know it from the grapevine. Electronics Ministry, Hindu reports that from government channels this might happen. So we are focusing on fab equipment. We are focusing on chemicals and gases. Right? And we are also focusing on, very important, R&D. What percentage of money is spent by a fab company in R&D? 25%. What are we doing for R&D? Number one, we are starting semiconductor research centers in universities, IITs, NITs, Indian Institute of Space Sciences. That is our focus. Semiconductor research centers, R&D is a very important part. Is that fine? And what is the last point? मुद्दे की बात, सबसे जरूरी बात. दे दी पॉलिसी, दे दिया लैंड, दे दी बिजली, दे दी सब्सिडी, सारे टैरिफ कम करती है, फिर भी कोई नहीं आ रहा. नो। ये है वो चाबी जो अनरावल करेगी सेमीकंडक्टर इकोसिस्टम। क्या नाम है इस चाबी का? What is the name of this key that opens the world of this ecosystem? सॉफ्ट पावर कैसे आएगा इसमें? The number of blanks are right. बताओ। सेमीकंडक्टर कैसे आएगा? आप अंग्रेजी थोड़ी ना सिखाएंगे यहाँ पे। सेमिकॉन नहीं, सिलिकॉन। ये बोल दोगे या लिख दोगे तो बस फिर चाहे सेमीकंडक्टर में सुप्रीम कोर्ट जजमेंट भी लिख दो फिर भी नंबर मिलेंगे। वी आर परसुइंग सिलिकॉन डिप्लोमेसी। गिनती के 5 कंट्रीज हैं इकोसिस्टम में, जिनमें से एक आपका दुश्मन है, वो वैसे ही आपसे बात नहीं करेगा, बाकी 4 मित्र हैं। जापान, साउथ कोरिया, ताइवान, यूएस। So you are pursuing silicon diplomacy with them. Silicon diplomacy means what? What is silicon diplomacy? We are entering into bilateral partnerships. Bilateral partnerships. Example दो. Indian PM had recently gone where? अखबार में तो है, मैगजीन भी पढ़ी होगी आपने, यूट्यूब भी देखा, इतना एनालिसिस देखा है। बताओ कहां गए थे प्रधानमंत्री? बहुत सारी जगह गए थे वैसे तो। रीसेंट, टेल मी। यूएस, यू आर राइट। यूएस रिसेंटली मिस्टर या सितंबर समिट ऑफ द फ्यूचर, यूएनजीए। नो, उससे पहले we have signed agreement, bilateral partnership with Singapore to promote semiconductor industry. To promote semiconductor industry. And most important, we have promoted diplomacy with US. We have promoted diplomacy with US. Give me an example. Shakti Fab. Shakti Fab. Shakti Fab is an agreement between US Space Force and this Indian company which was incubated in IIT Delhi. They worked hard there. They got selected for Berkeley University, California, and that is when they were having this skilled workforce to have a fabrication plant in this country. Its name is called as Bharat Semi. And this Bharat Semi has got one more vertical. Organizations have got verticals. This Bharat Semi's vertical is Third Eye Tech. Third Eye Tech. So US Space Force and these two companies, they got their act together and they are developing, they've signed an agreement to develop what? Develop what? Shakti Fab. Please write down about Shakti. Very important. Write down. Will design and manufacture will design and manufacture will design and manufacture will design and manufacture what? Chips for military application and critical communication. Military application and critical communication. Number two, it will focus on three important pillars. It will focus on three important pillars. You need to know this. Recent. Number one, three important pillars. Number one, advanced sensing. Number two, advanced communication. And high voltage power electronics. High voltage power electronics. Write down, when started, it will become the first. When started, it will become the first. It will become the first multi-material fab in India. For national security. देखिए, look at the beauty. Now, this Shakti is not like what Taiwan does. This Shakti is not what these countries like South Korea, Japan, and these Chinese are making. A fabrication will make chips, which will be sent to a ATMP plant, which goes to the end use. So it depends where will you use that chip. You want to use in a car, you don't require a ultra fine 2-3 nanometer chip. You want to use it in an Apple laptop or a chat GPT processor or in environment monitoring or weather monitoring or in a supercomputer. You want the cutting edge chips. And this ecosystem is already constrained. Now I'll tell you, these chips are also required where? In radars. These are required in missiles. These are required where? In manufacturing of defense equipment. I'll discuss it in the importance. And that is what the problem comes, and there's a prospect. What is already closed? This is a huge room. It has got a narrow door. This is ecosystem. The door is already closed. And if you talk about defense sector fabs, you further reduce it by the orders of 1/10. So Taiwan will make chips with you, but they might not enter the cutting edge technology of chip fabrication, which is used for the national security. That is what you've done. It is a big achievement of your silicon diplomacy. You can make a chip with China, but you can never have US wanting to make a chip for national security. It's a big achievement. It was underreported. It is as important as the initiative that India has signed with US 2 years back. It is called as what? Critical and Emerging Technology Agreement, which came up in mains 2 years back. 5 months after we had signed the agreement. This is much more, something like that is important for the examination. Is that fine? Please write down, apart from the initiatives mentioned above. Last point. Apart from the initiatives mentioned above, India has secured the supply of critical minerals. Semiconductor बनाने के लिए चाहिए ही silicon. जर्मेनियम, critical minerals in bracket through bilateral partnership, comma, establishment of Kabul. And has initiated schemes. Bilateral partnerships and initiated schemes. These are small points, so I don't want to waste my time here. Initiated schemes like chips to startup. Chips to startup. समझ में आ गया होगा? Chips to startup that is aiming to train 85,000. That is aiming to train 85,000 specialists over the 5 years. Over the 5 years. By supporting startups, comma, academic and research institutions. This is what you are doing. You've addressed everything. Now you tell me the outlook. Quickly, online students, tell me the outlook. How is the outlook? Outlook is bright. Future is bright. Why? Look at the sector. Design, fab, ATMP. Where do you see that brightness? Design. Where the intellectual labor is available. You've got a young population. Demographic dividend, we call it. People like you. But you are preparing for civil services. I appreciate that. You can still design chips. As compared to who? As compared to China, which has got an aging population. Your competitor is already putting down the weapons. You need to pick them up fast. And I tell you one more thing. We are not suboptimal. We have got the talent, but there is no domestic industry. काम तो भारतीय कर रहे हैं. Work is done by who? Indians. I tell you one more fact, if you can remember. 2,000 integrated circuits. Read them as chips. DD, Doordarshan. Demographic dividend, right? 2,000 ECs is what? Integrated circuits. Read them as chips. Integrated circuit means you're integrating transistors, resistors, capacitors to make a chip. So you call ICs chips, they all mean the same. Chips are also called as integrated circuits. Is clear? So we are designing 2,000 integrated circuits in 1 year. So there's a huge potential, bright potential. काम करने वाले लोग तो भाई भारत में हैं. अलग बात है वो काम किसी और के अधीन है. दूसरी बात, ऐसी भी कोई बात नहीं है The policy focus is very strong. The government's policy focus is strong, and on very rarely you get the support of state governments. Center state तो रहेगा ही ना. The states are also willing. The states are willing to subsidize. Then you've got geopolitical advantage. इससे बड़ा एडवांटेज नहीं है कोई भारत का. सभी आपके मित्र हैं. स्ट्रेटेजिक ऑटोनॉमी भी है, प्रैग्मेटिज्म भी है, गुड रिलेशंस भी है, एससीओ भी है, क्वाड भी है, ब्रिक्स भी है. सब कुछ हमारे पास है. फिलिस्तीन भी है, इजराइल भी है, सऊदी अरेबिया भी है, ईरान भी है. सिर्फ एक नहीं है, पाकिस्तान. वो चाहिए भी नहीं. वो से भी कर लेंगे तो मजा ही नहीं आएगा. आईआर बहुत आसान है, पढ़ाएंगे आपको. आईआर को बिल्कुल आसानी से देखना है. 2-3 सवाल आते हैं. हाइपर इजी है आईआर तो. I'll tell you in the next year. I'll teach Indo-ASEAN, the entire framework of all the Southeast Asian countries. In one class, we'll wind up. What is geopolitical advantage? Strong bilateral relations. एग्जाम्पल दीजिए. इंडो यूएस, इंडो जापान. ताइवान से सीधे रिलेशंस नहीं है. ताइवान की एम्बेसी नहीं है दिल्ली में, कल्चरल सेंटर है. मात्र 11 देश हैं जो ताइवान को रिकॉग्नाइज करते हैं, मात्र 11 वर्ल्ड में. तो हम ताइवान को ताइवान नहीं बोलते, एम्बेसी नहीं देंगे, बस नाम पे कल्चरल सेंटर. कल्चर मतलब खाइए पिए, कुजीन एंजॉय करिए उनका. क्योंकि चाइना से भी पंगा नहीं ले सकते ना. सबसे पंगा ले लेंगे तो फिर करेंगे क्या? I'll discuss later in IR. Indo, Japan, South Korea. We've got good relations. And हम तो we are willing to work with them. They are also happy. Why? They are doing what? हमसे ज्यादा तो डर इनको लग रहा था, इनको लगता है. Yes, they are following China +1 strategy followed by the Western nations. West का मतलब, जब मैं बोलता हूं West का मतलब क्या है? US, सारे एलाइज आप सोच लीजिए, और यूरोप, EU. वैसे EU भी US ही है. China +1. What is the keyword? They are doing what? They want to do what? No. Nearshoring is Mexico. We need to rip off the map of India and paste it on Mexico to call it nearshoring. No, we'll call it reshoring. No. Reshoring is going back to US. Friendshoring. We'll call it as friendshoring. तो हम भी खुश हैं, वो भी खुश हैं. और सबसे बड़ी बात, ये तो आपसी देशों का मुकाबला है. तो ग्लोबलाइजेशन के जमाने में कंपनीज इन स्टेट दे ऑल आर ओवरलैपिंग. वेस्ट में तो 100% लॉबिंग है. अगर ट्रंप आएंगे तो 100% हार्ले डेविडसन की बाइक फिर से यहां बनेगी. मतलब बंद तो नहीं सकती, इंपोर्ट होगी. उनका एक ही मुद्दा है, हार्ले डेविडसन भारतीय चलाएं. राजेंद्र नगर में, ओवरऑल में दबा के हार्ले डेविडसन चलें. इज इट क्लियर? दिस इज नॉट अ स्मॉल थिंग. बिजनेस इज एनीथिंग फॉर, दे आर ऑल कैपिटलिस्ट. ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड. तभी से ही सेइंग इंडिया इज दिस, इंडिया इज दैट. पता है ना, नवंबर में चुनाव है, 1 महीना तो है. वहां पे बोलेंगे नहीं तो होगा क्या? वो यूएस एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन ने इंडियन उसको बुलाया है. वो सब जैसे हम करते हैं, जैसे चुनाव होते हैं, वो भी वही कर रहे हैं. सो वी आर ऑल्सो ओके. नॉट ठीक है, लेट इलेक्शंस हैपन. इलेक्शंस विल सी, देन वील कांग्रेचुलेट देम. वाह, बधाई हो. क्या इंडिया यूएस तो मित्र हैं. सब ऐसे चलता है. आई एम नॉट जोकिंग, दिस इज ट्रू. ये बांग्लादेश वाले भी वो आ गए ना लाइन पे. मालदीव वाले बहुत बोल रहे थे इंडिया आउट, इंडिया आउट. अब कह रहे पैसे तो कुछ नहीं है खाने पीने के लिए. हमने कहा, उसको कहा सटल डिप्लोमेसी. भाई छोटे हैं कोई बात नहीं है, ऐसे ही है मालदीव वाले, कुछ नहीं है उनके पास, दे दो उनको पैसे, 100 रुपए मांग रहा है 200 दे दो, हो गए ना ठीक लाइन पे। दिस इज अ गुड एग्जाम्पल ऑफ आर नेबरहुड फर्स्ट फॉरेन पॉलिसी। आई डिस्कस इट व्हेन आई टेक साउथ एशिया। ऐसे लिखना मत एग्जाम में, कुछ भी नहीं मिलेगा, समझने के लिए लिखवाएंगे आपको क्लास में। Is it fine? Do you understand these points? How it is working? It is very simple, but you need to show them, and then you write down the semiconductor companies. They are also willing to diversify. Diversify कहाँ होगा? जहां पे there is low cost and there is availability of labor. 3 चीजें चाहिए, जमीन, बिजली और लेबर। जमीन और बिजली तो हम सब्सिडाइज कर ही रहे हैं, 70% आपने देखा ही है सेंटर स्टेट मिला के। इफ यू ऐड बोथ ऑफ देम, सो वील हैव लेबर। आई विल गिव यू एन एग्जांपल। आई गेव द एग्जांपल ऑफ सिंगापुर, ली कुआन यू। 60s 70s कंपनीज केम टू अस, वी सेड अरे यहां से नहीं, सिंगापुर जाओ, स्टेट ऑफ मलक्का, यहां क्या कर रहे हो, निकलो यहां से। और 71 तो वी हैड ऑलमोस्ट कॉन्कर्ड द वर्ल्ड, वी हैड taken over Bangladesh, and US was totally against us. We did that. 71 was our year in the foreign policy. जो हम चाहते हमने वो किया, and that is when they took advantage. Now they are reaching the top inertia. Companies, they want to migrate out of Singapore. I'll give you one example. Example is this company, just know UTAC Semiconductors. It has recently moved its manual operations, जहां ज्यादा स्किल नहीं चाहिए, it has moved its manual operations कहां पे? सिंगापुर से तो खोल के बाहर निकाला, कहां भेजा? नहीं, थाईलैंड। So now you are willing. तो पॉलिसी आउटलुक और ये अगर मिल गया तो फिर you've got some good investments happening. Yes. What else? What's the prospect? And you've got market. Biggest thing is market. You and me. हम और आप और हम. Market means what? We've got what? Young population. पैसा कौन खर्चेगा? युवा. You've got young population who's willing to spend. So you've got consumption oriented economy and बताइए digital penetration, more and more internet, more and more laptops, more and more microprocessors, more and more mobile phones, all of them they want it. All these factors, they are giving you a strong prospect. Apart from this, you can write down apart from the factors, these are main ones. Apart from these factors, India has what? A strong startup culture. In bracket, third highest startups in the world we have. Number 2, strong culture of innovation. Number 2 is strong culture of innovation. Number 3, very important, digital public infrastructure. Digital public infrastructure. Like Aadhaar. I'll take this topic like Aadhaar, like DigiLocker, like UPI. इन सबकी कंजम्पशन के लिए बिना चिप के तो कुछ हो ही नहीं सकता है। और अंत में क्या लिखेंगे? जो पीएम ने कहा, ये लिख देंगे तो बस एग्जामिनर काफी खुश हो जाएगा। इंटरव्यू बोर्ड को आपने ये बहुत कंक्लूजन मैंने कहा ना, ग्रैंड होता है, ग्रैंड, पहुंच के परे, जहां लोगों की सीमाएं खत्म हो और मैगजीन का मटेरियल खत्म हो, यूट्यूब का मटेरियल खत्म हो, वहां से आपकी सोच शुरू होनी चाहिए। ये प्रधानमंत्री ने बोला है। बताइए, दीजिए कोई ग्रैंड बात। ऑनलाइन स्टूडेंट्स, चिप्स आर नॉट डाउन, वो थोड़ा ना लिखेंगे, वो तो एक हास्यप्रद वो था, जोक। नहीं, टेल मी समथिंग ग्रेट। आत्मनिर्भर, यस, बट नॉट इवन ग्रेट, ग्रेटर देन द ग्रेटेस्ट। टेल मी, एंटायर इकोसिस्टम, विकसित भारत। नो 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 नो। नो, टेल मी, लिंक विद डेमोक्रेसी, सॉवरेंटी। नहीं 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 नहीं, ये ऐसे मत लिखना है, मैं ही बताता हूं, और वैसे भी डेमो क्लास है, बताना ही पड़ेगा, सब आता है। देखिए, ये पीएम ने कहा था, ये कटिंग एज टेक्नोलॉजी है। दिस इज कटिंग एज टेक्नोलॉजी, यू कैन टेक इट एनीवेयर। आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, cutting edge technology, you can take it anywhere. So to take semiconductor industry and the associated place in the ecosystem in the right direction, you need strong democratic values. किसी चीनी से पूछेंगे कि बता सेमीकंडक्टर में क्या करेंगे, कुछ टेढ़ा ही सोच के बताएगा, पर भारतीय क्या बोलेंगे? लोकतंत्र। Those democratic values, they will get reflected in your nuances policy framework of semiconductor industry. Because if you stretch this debate, exploitation of semiconductors, you can go to AI. Regulation of AI is the biggest thing right now in the world. I'll take 4-5 hour class for AI. I'll teach everything under AI. So US is saying free data. Let these companies earn billions of dollars. We want to do business. Fastest generative AI apps will be made by US. EU says, come on, hang on, not even a single bit of data will be given. We want to protect the data. India does what? We have to be watchful. And developing nations, global south, they all are riding our shoulders. So here we can take the leap. Because I'll tell you, Taiwan, South Korea, Japan, US, that is one thought, capitalist. China is totally different. We can show the way ahead. Look at the grand conclusion that the PM has given us. समझ में आ रहा है मेरा कहने का मतलब? क्या प्रधानमंत्री, और प्रधानमंत्री कहेंगे तो बिल्कुल आसान बात होगी, पर वो यूनिक होगी। राइट, राइट डाउन, फाइनली, प्लीज राइट डाउन, फाइनली, फाइनली, the technology of semiconductor will get amplified, will get amplified. Will get amplified if combined with democratic values. If combined with democratic values and take the technology in the right direction. Right? Right? We got to write the importance also. We'll do it in the end, but then you want to tell me what more needs to be done. You've seen everything. Problems, issues, value chain. समझ में आया सारा? Semiconductors, transistor, embedded in chips, value chain, issues, steps. Outlook bright. Now, what needs to be done? कुछ और क्या करें? नहीं, थोड़ा सा स्पेसिफिक होना पड़ेगा, ऐसे नहीं बोलेंगे। What needs to be done? First thing is to promote R&D and skill. You need to have more courses to produce skilled manpower. To produce skilled manpower. Example here I'd like to give you is Singapore. Singapore, efforts of Lee Kuan Yew and his focus on Singapore University developing the best talent. So they taught the people, students there to have the best engineers. You need to follow cluster-based approach. We are doing that. Focus on a sector and look there. This is also followed by China. This is also followed by Singapore. Just to give you a thought, I can have one cluster in Noida. In fact, the Shakti fabrication plant might come in Noida. Yogi government is willing. They've found a place. The CEO of National Semiconductor Mission had a meeting with the state government. नोएडा के आसपास बात चल रही है, अभी देखेंगे कहां जाएंगे. And what we can have in this place, it is very important for electronics, which is again a larger part of semiconductors being a smaller subset. It is called as Sri Peram Budur. It's a place in Tamil Nadu. And thereby we need to focus on the entire value chain. Focus on the entire value chain. Focus on the entire value chain. Right? Right? Is it fine, all of you? Now, just one thing I skipped in the discussion. Please write down importance of semiconductors. I think we did not write it, right? Yes, quickly write down in that structure that we had drawn. Remember the structure, because you need to add after revision the first page. Like I told you in the structure, you need to write the points that you are forgetting. This was the perspective, importance. So this page is your first page. You got to write all the points that you're forgetting. You will not forget this article if you know the value chain. Importance, can you tell me? I'll write it here itself, or I'll write it in the end. What's the importance of semiconductors and the industry? बताइए जल्दी जल्दी, तो सबसे आसान है. Importance. Yes, very good. So you would write it like this. You write it like this. Number one, downstream use. Every jagah, in every equipment we are using it. We are using it in electronics. We are using it in environment monitoring. Using it in development of processors, used in mobile phones, laptops. All of it is your usage. What else? It is also important because it lays foundation to what? 21st century techniques. 21st century technology. Give me some examples. What sectors? Yes, very good. Personalized healthcare, very good. Chip can be inserted in my body to monitor my blood count. Diabetes wale patients के लिए. It's a chip only. Chip in my embedded in my body, very costly. On the mobile phone, you can track everything. So it's personalized health. Then AI, EVs, space exploration, robotics, all the 3-4 points लिखिए. Yes, generative, everything, you can write these points. Simple. This is very simple. Or we can also write about the fact that it is important for fostering innovation. It is also important for employment. It is also important for reducing your import bill. Semiconductors are being imported. Will you agree? Innovation, it will foster because it's the cutting edge technology. Foundation of twin revolution, twin transition is this sector. Yeah. Clear? What else? Employment किसकी बढ़ेगी? स्ट्रीट वेंडर्स की, किसकी? स्किल्ड नहीं, नाम बताइए नौकरियों का. Who will get the benefits? I'll tell you. Remember, chemicals, gases, distinct class of materials. So those people who study the materials, they are called as material scientist. Nanotechnology, सारा काम physics, Nobel Prize physics, they laid the foundation of machine learning and artificial intelligence. I'll teach one class, one theme, I'll call you on an extra class and cover the entire Nobel Prizes in detail. Then chemistry, very good. Chemists also. Not chemist, दवाई वाले नहीं, chemical engineers. अगर वो सेमीकंडक्टर बनाने लग गए फिर तो पता ही नहीं, सारा राजेंद्र नगर फैब्रिकेशन बना लेगा, कुछ और ही बन जाएगा. और बताइए, डेटा साइंटिस्ट. And you will have what? Automation engineers. Right? What further is the importance of this sector? It is also important because of what? Supply chain constraints. This sector becomes important because it is controlled by few countries. नहीं, easily available तो बात ही क्या थी? And supply chain constraints because of what? We had seen pandemic, we had seen China dominance. I'll write keywords, you need to expand it in the answers. We'll write what? Russia. Yes, very good, very good. Russia-Ukraine war. They don't make, but that entire passage, global sea lanes for trade, they get affected, isn't it? And then the geopolitical rivalry between US and China, it is constraining the already constrained network, the value chain, US-China geopolitical rivalry. And finally, it is very important for us to develop the sector because of the last class. Important why? Tell me, give me the keyword now. It is finally important because of digital sovereignty and India's entry in the fourth industrial revolution. Chips war is again that same thing only. Chips war means the geopolitical constraints. US-China rivalries led to who controls what in the entire supply chain. That is what you call as chips war. Right? Any doubts? कुछ बचा ही नहीं doubts के लिए. Everything is covered. Let's attempt a question. I'll give you a question, you write, then I'll write. It's okay? Let's write a question. Online ones, you can also. That is not much. Varun, that is not much. We are not focusing on that. It is happening. But largely the government of India is focusing on these initiatives that I've discussed. It's the higher priority areas for the government. So we'll write only them in the answers because we got limited space and we have to prioritize. They have not started operating Shubham 1+4 units. They've just been approved. It's in the process of getting, land and everything. It'll get commissioned. Production will start quite late. It'll take 1 to 2 years. Write a question. Right? Is it clear? The online ones, Varun and all. Write down semiconductors is the way to future. Is the way to future. भविष्य का रास्ता है. Discuss the importance. Discuss the importance. Discuss the importance and the steps taken by Government of India. Quickly. Steps taken by Government of India. Let me see now. Write the question quickly. I will randomly check the answer copies. Write the questions and the online ones. You write the structure. What will you write? Is there a mechanism by which you can maybe give me a screenshot here of what you are writing? Write and post it here in the chat box. Show me the answer. Anyone who's written it from that seat. Time चाहिए कोई जल्दी नहीं है. Take your time. Very good. Viresh Pandey. Good structure. Very good. Have you prepared before? Viresh Pandey. बताइए पांडे जी. ओके गुड. इतना समय क्यों लग रहा है? ऑनलाइन बच्चों ने 3-4 बच्चों ने आंसर्स दे दिए इधर. पीछे why you turning the pages before? No. Simple. Should I check? Did you write? Did you write? Show me. ठीक है. Did you guys write? Very good. So now listen to me carefully. It is a very simple question. First, in General Studies, Paper 3, they'll ask you straight questions. The past says that. In IR, as I told you, and in social issues, they slightly make it tough for you to answer. IR, I'll tell you how to address in the next class. Now you just pay attention here. This question is all about the fact that it is asking me, what is the importance? It is a way to the future. Way to the future का मतलब, it is very important. तभी तो रास्ता फ्यूचर का दिखाएगा. और भारत सरकार ने क्या किया है? तो कुल मिला के दो बातें पूछी हैं. 250 words you need to write. Right? I'll introduce in 10% word limit, that is 25 words. Then maybe draw a nice diagram. डायग्राम मतलब ये नहीं मेन बात डायग्राम में देख लो भाई यही आता था सब बता दिया, ऐसे नहीं. The accessory diagrams are like jewelry. They add to the value. They cannot be you. Your jewelry will add to you. It cannot become you. And then I'll write the main points. Now have a look. See how it goes. Semiconductor is the way to the future. What is semiconductor? Semiconductors simply are distinct class of materials having properties both of conductors and insulators. Bracket example: silicon, germanium, and I've got scope. They are rightly the way to the future, or they are the way to the future because of the widespread usage and importance. क्यों है? क्यों वो पूछ रहा है क्यों है? हमने सिंपल बता दिया वाइड स्प्रेड यूज है इसीलिए, उसको हिंट दिया वाइड स्प्रेड यूज, दैट इज वाई इट्स द वे टू द फ्यूचर. नाउ next body, but there has to be a connecting link. Following is the importance. Because of which it is the way to the future. Simple connecting link. अब वही पॉइंट्स डाउनस्ट्रीम. सेकंड जल्दी जल्दी बताइए. वेरियस कटिंग एज टेक्नोलॉजीज. देन foster innovation, employment, forex, and importance. Why? Yes, susceptible to supply chain constraints and geopolitical tussles. How many words? 70, 80, I think, if you write complete sentences. Am I clear the online ones? 70, 80 words you write. एक पार्ट तो एड्रेस कर दिया. अब कैसे लिखोगे? Steps declared, अंडरलाइन लिख दिया. नो. In the light of the importance, following are the steps taken by Government of India. Clear? स्टेप्स टेकन बाय गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया को कर दिया अंडरलाइन. अब शुरू हो जाइए. सेमिकॉन इंडिया, ब्राउनफील्ड इन्वेस्टमेंट SCL, सेमिकॉन इंडिया Semicon India conference, Silicon diplomacy, then Semicon India 2.0. That is all. One line you write. Conclusion. Digital sovereignty or democratic values of India has got a great role to play in leading semiconductor technology in the world. Conclude how by writing about, either you talk about digital sovereignty or you talk about what? Or you talk about what? Democratic values. Is it clear? Is it clear? Online ones. Okay. Something extra. ये तो लिख लिया आप, स्ट्रक्चर वेरी गुड, आपने बना लिया था, समझ में आ गई कहानी आपको, हाँ? लिख लिया, not much no, because it's asking 2 strands, so I got limited words. Below this intro, I'd like to add something. What will I add in a diagram? I'd like to show the accessory to the examiner. इसके बाद, intro के बाद, I cannot add a page here, but what do you think about this? Just a small diagram. No. I think I took just 10 seconds more, isn't it? And what is the impact? Phenomenal. Because you wrote all the points, and this will help you in it'll help you in the steps which have been taken. When you write about the steps, because it is asking steps, तो उसमें steps में तो एक ही स्कीम में चारों देख लिए. अगर issues पूछता तो immediately issues आप order में लिखते, तो आपका examiner एक तो structure आता, और you would be able to quickly write the answer. तो ये flow charts ना कहीं की बार आपके recollection में they help you. Is it clear? Any doubts that you have? Any doubts that you have? Should I go ahead, all of you? Any doubts? You need to add it in the first page, the structure that we have made, the points that you could not remember, please write it. Okay? If you want to write this answer, write it, I'll evaluate for you. Don't worry about that. The online ones also. Now let's come to the next.